Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and we're coming to you live from our studio in New Jersey in the United States. Our show today is The Corner Bookstore, and we are thrilled to have you with us. We're also super humbled and grateful to announce that yesterday, Facebook picked us as one of their top 1% content creators, and that lasts for a week. So thank you, everyone, for your likes and for your comments. We hear you, we see you, we do appreciate you. Let's bring out the star of our show before we welcome our guest. It's international award-winning author Diane Floyd BOEHM, who also is the co-host of the United Kingdom News and Culture and a brand new show that we have called Books, Blogs, and Poems. She's been one of our expert presenters on Talking Heads. And of course, she's a certified elevated listener, which means you want to reach out to her. Do connect with her on her website, which is DianneFloydBOEHM, and also on LinkedIn. Diane, please do come out and join us. Welcome.
Good morning, Dr. Jacalyn. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you, Diane?
I'm doing great, especially after that incredibly warm introduction. I was wondering who that person was.
Well,
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Fantastic news.
Thank you. Thank you. I was saying this to you before. I think I've been on Facebook since 2007, but started this platform last year in January. So I am creating a lot of content. It is somewhat exhausting, but it is necessary. And I'm super excited to have this honor. So thank you for all that you do to bring people to this platform as well.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Diane,
about today.
Yes, we have a great guest joining us. Before we bring our guest out, I just want to spotlight you because you have created some incredible work for children and for young adults. Tell us a little bit about your passion for the Corner Bookstore, Diane.
Sure. Well, first of all, Dr. Jacalyn, it is an honor to be a co-host on the Corner Bookstore. And hello to everyone listening and watching out there. We really love and appreciate you so much. My passion for doing this is to have the opportunity to meet so many incredible authors, publishers, anyone in this media that comes and speaks with us on our show. And it's such a wonderful way for the authors to be able to share their book and for our listeners to be able to get to know the authors. I think it makes it more exciting when you read a book where you've listened to an author talk about their passion for writing or what made them write the book, etc. So the Corner Bookstore is fun and has valuable information, and I'm totally honored to be a co-host with you.
Thank you, Diane. You always say the nicest things. So sweet to have you with us. So our guest today is joining us from Canada, and not only is an author, but is also an illustrator. And I believe, like you, a master storyteller. And she also has this liking for motorcycles. I think we're going to find out more about that. So without further ado, let's welcome Joanna Vander Vlugt. Hello.
Hi. Thank you. I feel really honored. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you for being
Absolutely.
here. So I'd love to start off with, what is your passion for books and for writing?
Well, I used to hate to read as a child, and I really want to get that message out there because if I could start loving to read and to write, I just want to make sure if there's any child out there who thinks that they hate to read, that can change. It just needs a good story. And that was it for me. I read a really good story as a child, and it was like a flick of the switch. And like a child, it was action and adventure that I enjoyed reading, and that's exactly what I like writing, is action and adventure. So thrillers. Yeah.
So you're not the kind of person's just sitting around knitting per se. And we love knitting, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to seek action, adventure, get out there and I don't know, you hang gliding or are you jumping from airplanes? What kind of action adventure do you like?
Well, when I used to work uh, in a government office in Victoria, I could walk to work. It was about a 30-minute walk, and I'm sure Diane and every writer out there will agree, the walking was when I would think about my stories. And so on my way to walk to work, there was this bridge I had to cross. And every time I went back and forth on this bridge, I'd look over the edge and I'd be thinking, oh, could my character jump from there? What would she hit? So if my character ran where the seagulls are, maybe if she jumped from there into the gorge waterway, that would be how she escapes from the bad guys, right? So that's the kind of action and adventure. And you had mentioned motorcycles, motorcycle rides. Yeah, I give me a high speed chase any day. Yes.
Oh my goodness gracious, that was fun.
I love it. Just a follow-up question, then I'll go over to Diane. So you talked about walking, and I really feel that that is such a great time to just free your brain. And all of a sudden, these ideas come to you. I find that even for this platform, that when I'm out there walking. So do you find that there's a certain amount of time or distance that you need to go in order for ideas to pop in your head? Do you have to clear your brain or certain energy before it comes to you?
Yes. Yes. And I don't take my cell phone with me. I leave all that at home, and it's usually me and our two dogs. And the longer the walk, the better. Maybe about a 40-minute walk is ideal. And I just start with a simple thing of, like I remember walking to work. Okay, this scene, something's wrong with the scene. What if? And I would just start playing that what if game. What if Jade, my heroine, did this? She jumps off the bridge. Okay, how is Jade going to, get out of the water? Who's going to rescue her? And I guess it's having that time that gives you the freedom to just think out different scenarios as to how you're going to write the story or fix a problem or fix a scene. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Diane?
I totally agree with you completely, but I also want to back up for a moment and I want to thank you for your honesty about reading because I was very much like you. And I always share that with my students when I am invited to be in a school that, because I grew up with five brothers. So rumbling, tussling, playing. I mean, I want to be outside and have a blast. But of course, the moment I put on a dress, you don't get me dirty because I turn into a princess, right? but reading never did anything to me. I always thought, oh my gosh, this is so boring. I want to be out there having fun. But then, like you, I had this book in fifth grade called Beautiful Joe. I'll never forget. I now have 2 copies of it. And it impacted me so much that was my switch. And so I'm so grateful that you shared that because we need people to realize that we just don't become authors because we've always loved to write. That's not necessarily true, correct?
Yeah, correct. And if I could add one more thing.
Sure.
Diane, you made me smile because I remember being a child and my mom would put a dress on me and I'd have the leotards.
Mm-hmm.
And I was that kid who would come home from school and there was always a hole in the knee of the leotards. And I remember thinking, what is the purpose of these? Like, not what is the purpose, but
Yeah.
gee whiz, right? Like another hole. And I think my mom also got to the point of, forget it. This girl not wearing dresses.
Absolutely.
I love the fact that not only are you an author, which is hard enough, believe me, I know it's very difficult work, but you're also an illustrator and you're a very successful illustrator. Tell us about your illustrations that have been purchased by motorcycle magazines.
Okay.
Wow.
So here's I still, it connects to being a teenager. Okay. And as a teenager, I was I'll say a nerdy child. I was never popular, and also would say at that time I was bullied a bit. So the art and the writing were my escape. And I grew up during the 80s. We had supermodels then, so I used to illustrate supermodels, and they never gave me any flack, right? So, anyways, I took about, oh gosh, about a 20 minute, don't I wish, a 20-year break. I had like this 20-year hiatus where I didn't write, I didn't create art. I had, teenage daughters, my own family, and I was involved in personal training, so I'd put all that aside. Okay. So it was a lot had to do with my mom passing and my best friend encouraging me just to start to draw. And it started with a car. A friend had commissioned me as a birthday present for her husband, because I don't know about Dr. Jacalyn or Diane, men are so hard to buy for. Okay. So she wanted me to illustrate a sprint car, which they race those, and they're like a little wedge in a way with like big fat tires. And I had so much fun doing that. And can you tell I was not that kid who wore a lot of dresses in school? Right? And it was just, I would look, and I do this with the bikes. I get a photo of a motorcycle. I blow that photo up. And my example is, you may have a red gas tank, but when you blow that photo up, I can see all these other colors. And I feel like I found something, I won't say special, but that may have been overlooked. And it's finding those additional little colors. And in tires, if I can make a tire, if I can see purple in a tire, I'm going to have purple tires in that motorcycle. And I think it has something to do with motion. Like, I want to illustrate a plane at some point. It's something to do with motion and flight and travel that I have this liking. Yeah.
Wow. So neat.
It's in your spirit, it's in your soul, I can tell, right? Like, yeah, that's awesome. And you're right. I've experienced that where I've blown something up and I was like, I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to do a glacier and it's going to be so easy because it's all going to be blue. I'm going to get this out of the way really fast. And then when we blew it up, my teacher was like, no, don't you see the purples and the different hues? And I'm like, what? It took me 6 months to complete. But it's so awesome when you learn to train your eyes to see those tiny things. Since you're a professional illustrator, I can see how you could get really turned on to that because it is exciting.
Yeah. I'm wondering, Joanna, how much of your time is spent doing research?
With regards to the novels, gosh, I've gone down some rabbit holes. I find I'm not a plotter when I write a novel. I'll have a general idea, or I'll have a theme I'd like to pursue. Now, when it comes to writing I'm doing the final edits of the third book. And I've learned from working on the third book that I want to plot more. Okay. And I've listened to advice from other authors who have said to me they'll plot, maybe the first half of their novel, and then they'll let the writing, the process kind of take over. Because I have researched, for example, like prostitution or those sorts of themes. I have researched about illegal, like, when people, the legal market for organs and transplants, like there's a whole illegal market out there. And I have worked that into a story. But my problem is I get too complicated. And then my editor will get my manuscript and she'll be like, you have too many plot lines going on in here. You need to, bring it in, find, let's say, your two storylines, because right now you've got 3 or 4 going on in here and it's too much. So sometimes I research and I don't use what I end up researching. Okay. But I guess that's what happens when you're not a plotter.
They're fascinating topics.
Yeah.
Even if you're a plotter, that would happen going down rabbit holes because you get so, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. I got to read more. And then you're like, wait a minute, I got to get focused. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Joanna, I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about No Beatles Reunion. What is that and what's the significance to you?
I had the good fortune of working. So on Vancouver Island, if you go north of California, north of Washington State, there's Vancouver. And then across from Vancouver, there's this long, skinny island that's basically the size of Portugal, but it's long and skinny. Okay. That's where I live. And there is a small city called Nanaimo. And I worked in the Nanaimo prosecutor's office. That's where I started my government, working for my government career. And we had such an amazing team, okay, in that office. And one of our prosecutors died because of a car accident many years later. And so No Beatles Reunion, it had to do with we could never get back together and be that team that we once were. Because, as much as you don't want things to change, people do move. There's the unfortunate and sad passing of this prosecutor, but there were also other individuals who then moved on to different careers. So that short story captures that team environment, because you could imagine working in the prosecutor's office, even if it's a small city, there are some, and I don't want to be negative, but criminal activity everywhere. And we dealt with some very horrendous situations. And, but we supported each other. That was the thing. We were, such a great support network. And I don't believe every office is like that. So that's why I called it No Beatles Reunion. Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. How do you keep all of those, what you're seeing, what you're witnessing? How do you keep those emotions from really just at the time, just taking you out completely, just not even being able to function when you're witnessing things and privy to things that are not always the most pleasant?
Well, it's weird how the mind works, because I was the Supreme Court assistant. So everything that was, let's say, a sexual assault, a murder, a stabbing, that all came to our court. Okay. If you have like a theft under or an impaired charge, that was what was called provincial court. Okay. So I was the Supreme Court assistant. And it's weird because I found, and now this is going to sound really weird, for my methods of coping, if I could see that there was some sort of a connection, and this is going to sound awful, to the victim, okay, if it was, let's say a gang member taking out another gang member. I'm not saying it's justified, but it was like, oh, okay, so this is how these people knew each other, okay? That I could keep a distance from it. But let's say if there was and I still remember this case to this day, and it's been like over, gosh, 17, 18 years since I've been at Crown. If there was a case where, oh God, I could now, they're just coming back up. They're just coming back up. Okay. If there was a case where children were involved, those would just hit me. Okay. And I remember I'd have a nightmare that night to do with children. Okay. The files we had where, let's say, a couple who owned a boat, okay, who moored their boat at a dock, just out enjoying themselves, and the two very nasty, awful individuals then attacked them. Two innocent people just minding their own business, those would get me. It was, that there's that saying, bad things happen to good people, and being in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? Like, those were the files that would get me. Okay. And what I find is with my novels, see, this is this has been brought up to me, where someone had said, the victims of your crimes in your novels, they're usually like not nice people. The people who are the victims in your novels are not nice people. And it's because I can't write a novel where there's an innocent victim, because I have seen the real situation. Okay, so so if I'm going to have a murder victim in my fiction, that murder victim, I'm going to make that person a very awful character. Okay, I cannot have an innocent person be the victim in my novels. Did I answer your question? That was a very long-winded answer.
Fascinating. Fascinating. I could talk to you all day about that.
I can't do that. I just can't do that because I have seen it. And actually, Dr. Jacinta, oh my God, that's quite the question, because there have been times when I have seen news reports on TV, or I have heard of an individual being a victim of a crime, where I have almost stepped back and I have thought, can I keep writing thriller novels? Can I keep writing murder mysteries? It's happened to me more than once, where I've questioned whether I could keep going on writing what I'm writing because of knowing of the real stuff, right? But I've been told I'm too dark to write romances. My writing style is too dark to write a romance. So maybe that goes to the action adventure, right? Like, give me a good motorcycle chase scene. Give me a good chase scene. That I can do. So, oh my God, Dr. Jacinta, you're opening up a lot of stuff here.
What's interesting is what you were just talking about. It sounds like a great segue into the unraveling, because you're talking about the unraveling of all the stories and the things that you witness and all the feelings that go into it. Tell us about your debut thriller, The Unravelling.
Okay, well, The Unravelling was, I had started writing it when I was working at the prosecutor's office, And the idea was, the prosecutors that I worked for, you know, to me, they were they were heroes, okay? Because in Canada, in Supreme Court, we have the black robes, we have the white collar, and they would go into court, and some of them would just get chewed out by a judge, and it's it made me really take my job seriously because I didn't want anything that happening to the lawyer, being chewed out or losing a case if I had forgotten to do a certain aspect of the paperwork. Okay. So I'd see these lawyers go into court and they'd come back, and the stress, and you can imagine the weight on their shoulders. They're going in to prosecute a murder trial. Okay. And it's in the paper. And if they don't come out with a win, you could imagine I could not do their job. I could not have that stress on my shoulders. Okay. So what got me with lawyers, with the prosecutors, is this is how I saw them. But in the office, you mentioned the word Law Society, which is our governing body over all lawyers in Canada. And they'd be like, right? What about the Law Society? Like they just, just knowing, just seeing them, like just, I don't want to say crumple, but they're all like, what was Law Society? What have I done wrong? Right. So I thought with the Unravelling, if I could have knowing of this, this like Overwatch, the Law Society, if I could have a fictional society, which I called, oh my God, I can't remember the first novel. I have this society that is has its own vigilante justice system. Okay. So if when the prosecutor goes into court, right, and they are found not guilty, this justice society then takes over and they issue their own justice. So that was kind of the premises for the Unravelling.
Sounds like a fascinating movie or TV series. Is anything coming from it?
Oh, I wish. I wish, but no, I haven't had any bites along that. But that would just be so amazing, Yeah, yeah.
I would love it. I'll tell you that
Mm.
much. Oh, Diane, we can't hear you.
I sometimes mute myself so I don't cough or something. I loved everything you shared, but I want to go back to something that you said that really warmed my heart, which was you can't make a nice person a victim. And and I like that because even if I'm watching a show, I'm like so upset the rest of the night because that was such an innocent person, like you said, being there at the wrong time, wrong place, wrong time. But also what I enjoyed you sharing was so much about your writing process and making sure it was really a bad person.
Yeah.
And I think that this is probably very therapeutic for you, your writing. And maybe you're doing these thrillers, even when you said, should I keep doing it? Because you have seen and experienced real life. So I'm curious if you find it therapeutic.
Well, the thing I find with writing, and I know other authors have said this too, is with a novel, you definitely get a sense of justice. Okay. So the bad person, let's say the murderer who takes out, like in Dealer's Child, the murderer who takes, it's more of a family vendetta, but that person gets caught, where in real life, sometimes the bad person doesn't get caught. So with novels, the bad person does get caught and there is justice. Okay. Yeah, I guess that is therapeutic. It is. Yeah, and I had another thought, which it just ping, just went past me.
That's so easy to happen. I'm so glad you brought up that particular book, because Dr. Jacalyn and I, we really wanted you to share a little bit about that book as well. And we want you to read to us. So,
Okay.
Yeah, and also I'd like to just mention that you have accomplished something that I certainly has not been able to accomplish, but getting into Amazon top 100 with Dealer's Child. So number 60, I think that's incredible.
I don't know how it happened. I was just as surprised as everyone else. I was like, really?
Now, question about that. Do you get a phone call, or does somebody come to your door, go, hi, just want to let you know, like, how do you actually find out?
You've got to check. Like
Every
the
hour,
author,
right?
has to check. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, if I can share a story, she's an American author, and I had her on my podcast, and she shared the story of a friend telling her that there was a question about one of her novels in a game show. What's the one which
Oh my
you-
gosh. We interviewed her. I can't think of who it
and
was.
Charles.
That's it, Aunt Charles.
Charles.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
She's great.
Jeopardy. That was it.
Yeah,
You know, and
Jeopardy,
she only
that's
found
right.
out because someone told her, right? So
I
it's
remember
right.
that now.
Exactly. But so for people who don't know, when you go onto Amazon, at least I know when I'm checking for number one new release or number one bestseller, you have to check every hour to see if that little flag is on your posting on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us about Dealer's Child, and we'd love to have you read from it.
Okay, well, Dealer's Child. I've been practicing on my elevator descriptions of it. So with Dealer's Child, the idea came to me about, okay, you're a child. You grew up in this wonderful like family environment. And let's say one day you find out that everything was a bit of a lie. Okay. And so my heroine, Jade Time, you know, she learns that her idyllic childhood had been a lie. Okay. And what happens is I have a bit of a paranormal element in Dealer's Child, where she starts talking with her mother's ghost, and she starts to realize that her mother, as a young woman, had fallen in love with a drug dealer back in the 60s. Okay. And now there's this family vendetta because of what her mom was involved with in the 60s with this drug dealer. And also part of that came about because, you know, we were all teenagers at one time. We were all in our early 20s. And my husband and I, we have two daughters who are in their early 30s. And I swear during their young adult life, you know, in their 20s, they never thought that mom could be single and in her 20s, right? And it's like, you know, every mom has been a teenager at some point, right? So I wanted my heroine Jade to see that her mom as a teenager was a totally different person than her mom as a mom. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's really great.
I do.
And by having a book like that and young adults reading it, they'll stop, maybe even ask their mom, so what was teenager life like, you know? And that's a great question, because I really think it's fun to learn to have your mom or your dad become your friend now that you're an adult, because you have a brighter relationship, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but it doesn't matter how old you are. If my mom says my full name, Patricia Diane, I'm like, oh, okay, mom. I'm all grown up, but I'm like that little girl again.
Yes.
Does that happen to anyone else?
Yeah, that full name, address, and if you put in a middle name, oh, you know you're in trouble.
That's for sure. I remember that with my dad. Well, I know you gave us the elevator speech synopsis, which is great. That's a hard thing to do, by the way. What are one or two things that you would like people to take away from the book?
Forgiveness, okay, and definitely forgiveness. And there, as much as it's a story about this notorious drug dealer on Vancouver Island, okay, it's also a story about family and reconnecting with family. I had started, now, Dr. Jacalyn, you had mentioned, gosh, oh God, you talk about peeling away the layers here. With Dealer's Child, I was writing it, like I said, after my mom had passed. And there's a part of me that thinks if I had a chance to talk to my mom one more time, you know, if it's even if she was as a ghost, just, you know, to be able to talk to her one more time. Like, I think at one point there was a post going around of a bench, and it said, who would you want to talk to if you could pick anyone in the world, right? And I know I was thinking my mom. Okay. So yeah, it's a crime. It's a crime drama. It involves drug dealers, and it involves gangs, and it involves, you know, my poor heroine Jade starting to realize that this family life she thought she had, this ideal family life, it was a fraud, okay? And there was other stuff going on behind the scenes that she never knew about, and she slowly starts uncovering that. And it's her almost, I want to say forgiving her mom, like forgiving her mom a little bit, and still wanting to be connected, you know, to her roots, okay? So, yeah.
Fascinating. You know, I appreciate you sharing that. I started like getting all teared up. I was like,
I know, I'm
get it
wiping my
together.
eyes.
I was thinking, because I think about that with my dad. He's not here anymore. And I think, wow, one more conversation. I never actually thought, what if I could have one more conversation?
Yeah.
So it's just fascinating. I also want to talk to you about the fact that not only are you an award-winning author and illustrator, but you are also a podcast host. And that's a whole other set of skills that you have to have. So what's your experience been like in interviewing people?
It's been fun. And I have to say, I don't think people realize the amount of work that goes on behind. Hey? Okay. I really appreciate this interview, because I don't think people understand the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. You know, they see, let's say, your hour show, or they listen to my hour podcast, but they don't realize that, you know, your prep work for this show, my prep work for my podcast. And yeah, I've learned so much from other authors. I've connected. You know, I was able to interview Diane, and I learned so much from her. You know, and it may not even be. I learned how to be a better author, but I also learn about people. Okay, I mean, I'm in Canada. You're in the U.S. And you know, there's not much difference. We're all people, okay? And am I saying that right? You know, like, yeah, you know, so just learning that there are good people out there. Like, I sometimes feel that we see too much negative, and just knowing that there are good people out there, and we have lots in common. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, it is a lot of fun, and it is interesting, and it's also an educational experience. That's what I feel, that at the end of the week I think, wow, look at how much I learned. And I just learned a whole lot from you. So thank you for sharing that. Well, as we come to the end of our show, I don't believe that we have seen enough of your book, Dealer's Child. Can you please hold it up?
Yes, yes, actually. This is the old cover. This is, Dealer's Child here. Oh, and you can see, of course, there's a motorcycle on it. Okay. The books have all just been rebranded because of Spy Girls coming out in September. And so the covers have changed a bit. If you go on Amazon, it'll be a slightly different cover. But just the title, Dealer's Child. I don't want to give too much away, but okay.
That's fantastic. I do want to share your website if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Let me go over. Whoops, I pulled up the wrong thing. Too many things here. Present. Okay, let me share my screen and take a look. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm over here. Okay, here we go. What would you like people to focus on here, and where should I go?
Oh gosh. Well, I would say the podcast, the JCV Art Studio podcast.
Okay.
I think I'm up to episode 1. I'm just about at 150. Okay, so that's where everyone can see the different authors I've interviewed. DC Gomez, Scott Overton. I had started this podcast during lockdown because I so needed to connect with people. And it's at the point now where I'm now saying, okay, I am booking for 2024. I am solid to the end of the year. Okay.
Good for you.
And, there was when Hank Philippi Ryan came on, I was so nervous, right? But I thought, okay, pull it together, pull it together, right? So it's been so interesting because I thought maybe only Canadian authors would be interested, but no, it's a blend of Canadian, American. My listeners are from right now. I always check the stats, and there's this little tug of war between Canada and American listeners. And right now I have 46% American and I have 44% Canadian. So it cracks me up because it'll change, back and forth. Yeah. So
I have to say, I'm really impressed how you have this all laid out on your website. That takes a lot of work, and to keep it updated, and it's very seamless and it's easy to navigate.
Good. Thank you. Good. That makes me feel good. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
I would say my podcast. If you click to my shop, you'll see a little bit of. So there was the old cover for the Unravelling, and now there's Dealer's Child with the new cover, and the new cover for the Unravelling. And if you're interested in my art, if you click art, just over by shop there, and you click on one of the images, it'll go big. But
It's beautiful.
yeah,
Wow.
you know where my heart is.
Fabulous.
I've been working on rewrites, so I'm
Look at the detail on the ship as well,
It's amazing.
and the leaves. Really, how long did it take you to do this?
Oh gosh, that takes about easily around 30 hours to do.
It's magnificent.
Yeah. And I don't own a motorcycle.
Oh, I was going to ask that. I was going to say, how many Harleys do you have?
But just 2 weeks ago, I have a scooter. I have a green retro scooter, and I'm illustrating that now. And it's so, look at my smile, right? To be able to illustrate my scooter, because I'd illustrate these bikes, and then some of them I still have, but some of them then I'm mailing off, to the owner. So to illustrate my own scooter, and this is mine, right? So yeah,
amazing.
it's that it's got to be something to do with movement that I really like. Yeah.
Now, what if you had a multitude of people who want this particular piece of art? Do you, I don't know what the word is.
Replicate, I think.
Thank you for that. Do you replicate it, or is it one and done?
No, I would do prints. I would do
Okay.
prints. Yeah. Yeah. Certain certain, like this one in particular, I wouldn't be able to do a print for just because of an agreement I have with the owner, right? But some of the other ones, I could definitely do prints for. Yeah, I think one of my favorites that's not on here. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
Detail is incredible.
Incredible.
So
Looks so cool on a t-shirt.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
see, and it was a Porsche dealership from Florida contacted me, and they had asked me about 2 Porsche illustrations I had done. And one of them, I said, they basically asked if they could purchase the right to use this image on their shop's t-shirt. And there were 2 they were interested in. And one of them said, no, I can't because I don't hold the copyright. I was given permission to illustrate it, but I can't sell it, right? I can just like show it, right? But then the other one, I said, yes, this was a photo I had taken. It was my photo. Yes, you could use it, right? So they purchased the image and they did. They put it on t-shirts, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's
That is
really
very
cool.
Yeah.
How did they find you? Did they tell you?
That was the thing, okay? Just this email comes out of the blue and I'm like, what is this? Like, is this some sort of fraud? Who are you? And I'm then checking for websites and checking the names. And I'm chatting with my husband and he goes, no, this is legit. This is a legit business, right? I thought, okay, but every step of the way, I'm asking questions to see, okay, what are they going to say? Is this legitimate? And they were a legitimate company out of Florida. Yeah.
I'm so happy for you and your journey. It's really exciting.
Well, I'm looking at these images and that is a comedian, the one with the dog, Jeff Dye. It was weird.
That's
Yeah.
fun.
So that one I wouldn't sell because, he gave me permission to illustrate the photo, but that was it, right? So I wouldn't sell that because, I want to make sure I have the correct permissions in place before I start selling things. And I love that. I'm a dog person and I love that dog. Right?
I love that dog too. So for people in the audience who are thinking, wow, I'd love to have her illustrate something for me, are you open to being hired or you
Yes.
do? So is it just in specific categories of art that you want to create?
No, I love drawing people. So that's been a bit of my learning because like my husband, he is a car guy. Okay. He loves the Porsche. Any of those car shows. I have seen Barrett Jackson. I have seen
yes.
that on TV, right?
That's so cool.
Any of the car shows where they get the old cars that are damaged and they refurbish them, or probably not saying the right word, but they,
Yeah.
they fix them up. He loves watching those shows. And so I'd illustrate a car and I'd put a person in it because I like drawing people. And he'd be like, no, just the car. Okay. Just the car, So I do. I enjoy illustrating people. Tonight I'm going to be doing, it's called Noir at the Bar in Victoria. And Tara Moss, who's an international author, I asked her one day, I said, can I illustrate this photo of you? It was this beautiful photo of her sitting in a red dress in Beacon Hill Park. And she said, yes, definitely, and so I illustrated it. I'm not selling it because I don't have that permission. And, but it was just so much fun to illustrate her. Like, as you can tell, I think it's my legal background. If I don't have the right permissions, I'm not going to make money off of someone else if I do not have the permission, the okay from that individual, right? So, yeah.
Now, I have a question for you, and I know we're running out of time, but I'm so fascinated. My question is, if you happen to be out for a walk and you see someone's car, can you take a picture of their car and illustrate it and you don't have to have permission because it's in the public domain. There it is.
Yeah. and I've done that, but I don't put the license plates on it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's also, I believe that may even be a privacy issue too, right?
It
Like,
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. So are you open to interviewing people in the audience who are authors, and is that specifically who you're interviewing from the website? It looks like it, but
I started with authors and artists. Okay. That's what I had started with. But just so many authors started to contact me, and publicists from the US, from Canada, started to contact me. I had one publicist say to me, I saw on Instagram your interview of so-and-so. Would you be interested in interviewing the author I represent? And she sent like a little package, the press release, reviews about the book, a JPEG, cover of the book. And that's how I, out of Ireland, that's how I got, oh God, Marion, or I'm sorry, Marion, I can't remember her name. Okay. But her book is out of Ireland, and that's how I ended up interviewing her. And so now I'm starting to ask, so how did you hear about me? So it has grown into something I never thought it would grow into, right? Yeah.
that is fantastic. And we're happy to have you interview any of the people that we've interviewed as well. And also, I'll introduce you to our team members, and most of them have written a book. You can interview them as well. So we're all here to support each other. So.
Yeah.
Joanna, we loved having you today. I know I speak for Diane and for everyone who's watching. Most of our audience watches whenever they want, as opposed to being live. But you've shared so many fabulous nuggets here with us today. And we've got your Instagram and your website. I'm going to spotlight you again. How would you like people to reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
If you have a bike, like before 2020, I was doing quite a few commissions, and then 2020 hit, and we're not going to talk about 2020, okay? Or the
Oh no,
We lost her for a
we
second.
lost her for a second.
Hopefully she'll
Okay,
come back. But
that was so
wow.
much fun, wasn't it, Diane?
Yeah, it was great. She's fascinating. So
She is so many different topics. So if she doesn't come back, please do reach out to her on her Instagram. It's her name, and I'll spell it for you. This is okay. Are you ready? Get your paper and pen. Here we go. JoannaVanderVlugt underscore the word author, AUTHOR underscore art, ART. And her website is her name, JoannaVanderVlugt.com. All right. That was a lot of fun. Diane, I would love to, as we close out the show with your sponsorship. We didn't get a chance to run it. So before we do, I'd love to spotlight you and just have you share with our audience how they can purchase your books and get in touch with you.
Sure. Everybody, thank you for watching and listening. You can reach me at DIANN'FLOYDBOEHM, DIANN'FLOYD, BOEHM.com. All my social media is right there. And be sure to sign up for my newsletter. And my books are at almost any local bookstore. You can order it and have it sent to you, or of course, Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn.
Thank you, Diane. All right, we're going to close out. If you'd like to join us on this show or books, blogs, and poetry, or the United Kingdom, we actually do take guests on the United Kingdom. We just haven't had very many, but please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, book your session. And now, thank you again to Diane. We're going to be running Diane's sponsorship, and we really do appreciate your support, Diane.
My pleasure.
Thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
USA Global TV and Radio presents international award-winning author, speaker, educator, Diane Floyd BOEHM.
I want to to thank everybody for joining us today on this special edition of the Corner Bookstore, USA Global TV. And we're talking with the co-host of the Corner Bookstore, Diane Floyd BOEHM today, who is herself an author of many books, not just children's books, but also books for adults. Diane, welcome to the Corner Bookstore.
Everyone should have their own library. Even children should start developing their library and know that what happens in a garden, it grows. And I want their library to grow. And never, ever get rid of a book, because what you might have enjoyed as a child reading and having lovely memories of your parents reading as you get older, you'll grow to cherish those books in another way. My specialty is to help people realize that we are all storytellers, and that if you have this yearning to get this story out, but you don't know how to get started, I want to be the person that you can come to, you can feel comfortable with. I'll learn your personality. We'll just go and have itty bitty baby steps, just like in my book, A Time to Fly. Before you know it, the young new author is ready to fly to and go to super professional coaches.
Diane's books are available now at DianneFloydBOEHM.com. Charlie and the Tire Swing, How It Began. A Time to Fly. A Song of Peace. Rise, a Girl's Struggle for More. Harry the Camel. The Little Girl in the Moon. The Little Girl in the Moon, Moxie and Tycho Town. Moon League Adventures, The Serengeti.
And I'm saying, go for it.